Recently, I've seen a tweet making the rounds. It reads, I saw a teacher friend of mine post, I wonder how social distancing will work when we run school shooter drills in the classroom this fall. Everything about this sentence is wrong. Ask yourself how we got here. Teachers shouldn't be put in the position of choosing between endangering lives from COVID 19 and active shooter training drills. In a large number of the replies, people are pointing out the twofold nature of this problem and that teaching staff are on the front lines dealing with them. One Michelle Phillips points out that teachers have to keep windows and doors open for ventilation, but keep windows and doors closed during lockdown scenarios. That is, if your classroom has windows that open, or windows at all. The strategy employed in my school district for active shooter scenarios is to huddle all the students into a location where they can't be seen from the doorway, lock the doors and windows, and turn out the lights, and tell everyone to stay absolutely silent. The main goal is to make the room appear empty so that if and when an attacker walks by, they pass the room as there is apparently nobody in there. In this hypothetical classroom, credit to Necroleachate on Pixel Joint for this artwork, the students and teachers would hide against the back wall. From here, the shooter could not see them from the doorway, but all the students would be sitting shoulder to shoulder without enough room to socially distance. Sometimes, especially in primary or elementary schools with younger students, the classrooms may include an adjoining bathroom. This was the case with Kaitlin Roig-DeBellis, a first-grade teacher at Sandy Hook Elementary School. When an armed gunman entered the school on December 14, 2012, Roig-DeBellis ordered her 15 pupils into the single-occupancy bathroom to protect them. The room was no bigger than a standard bathroom stall, only 3 feet by 4 feet, or just over 1 square meter. It was so small that she had to fit 3 of the children on top of the toilet. It would have been an impossibility to socially distance. What do you think parents would have said if Kaitlin told them she didn't save their children because she was worried about them catching COVID-19 due to the proximity? When I was in high school, there was an active shooter scenario. Luckily, it turned out to be a false alarm, but in the moment the vice principal called the code red over the intercom, that was our signal for active shooter scenarios, the school became a buzz with panic and fear. This all occurred during our lunch period, which meant hundreds of students were all congregated in the cafeteria and gymnasiums. Many more were in labs for science class, in tutoring for math, or simply enjoying their lunch in other classrooms. At the time the code red was called, those hundreds of students in the cafeteria were all herded into the kitchen or ran out through an emergency exit. Students in the gymnasiums took cover in locker rooms. A friend and I were walking down a hallway, at which point we turned and bolted up to the second floor, hiding in the nearest classroom, out of sight. Another friend of mine hid on top of a cabinet for the duration of the lockdown. Panicked text messages and Snapchats to family and friends circulated non-stop. Are you okay? Stay safe. I love you. In those moments, the only things that mattered were preserving life, self-preservation, teachers protecting students, friends helping friends, police stopping an assailant. At that moment, a planet-wide plague was not a factor to consider, but it would have been pretty low on my priority list when I heard Code Red shouted over the PA. I could have been one of those hundreds in the cafeteria kitchen, huddled shoulder to shoulder, hip to hip, and I would have been more worried about the sound of gunfire than the frantic, fearful breathing of my fellow classmates. Students in classrooms or locker rooms would have been in a similar position. The safest place, then, might have been out in the open field behind the school, or the parking lot. Even then, if the gunman was stopped before hurting anyone, people might still have died. Lockdown scenarios are not conducive to social distancing practices. Even with masks on, people sharing the same oxygen supply are still susceptible to contracting COVID-19. The lockdown at my high school lasted approximately 30 to 60 minutes, if I remember correctly. In a cramped, crowded space where everyone is anxious, breathing heavy, and perspiring, 30 minutes is more than enough time for a lethal virus to travel on moisture in the air from one body to many. Not every room is well ventilated, and in a lockdown scenario, opening a door or windows is just asking for trouble. Just imagine being in a tiny single occupancy bathroom. The original tweet only mentioned lockdown drills, not even the real thing. It also asks how we got here. As I'm sure you're aware, schools are being pressured to open in September. Hardly anyone will disagree when I say that in-person learning is superior to online alternatives. However, I will assert that the health and safety of people in the education ecosystem is more important. When a student catches the flu, do they tell the kid to come in anyway? No. In fact, every nurse and health teacher I knew in my schooling had told me that if I'm not feeling good, I definitely shouldn't come in. When I had the flu one time, I missed an entire week of school, 5 days straight. I still got all the work done and graduated on time, as did anyone else set back by a stomach bug or infection or anything else. When Hurricane Sandy hit the East Coast, schools were closed widespread in New York, New Jersey, and Connecticut for over a week in some cases. My school system, I think, was only closed for 5 days, so 1 week. Nobody complained about the justification for that. It was a natural disaster, after all. I know that it may be difficult to conceptualize this, but COVID-19 is also a natural disaster. COVID isn't knocking over trees or flooding buildings, but it's impacting lives in a big way. And it's killing hundreds, if not thousands, more people than Sandy ever did. It's okay to wait for schools to open. Students aren't going to fall behind. Students would probably enjoy the extra long summer vacation anyway. It would be great to send students back. I don't think anyone is arguing against that, but it's in their best interest not to expose them to the most deadly disease the world has seen in quite some time. Pressuring schools to open before it's safe is condemning a lot of people to die unnecessarily. We are in the midst of an unprecedented natural disaster. I need you to consider the following. If schools open, what might happen to me and the people around me? If schools don't open, what might happen to me and the people around me? These are questions that you need to sort out for yourself, without the influence of peer pressure, advisement from the powers that be, or the news media. Weigh the outcomes, and if you come to the conclusion that opening schools anyway is a good idea, then good luck. I hope the best for you and your school district. But don't say I didn't warn you. If you think waiting is better for your community, then you can take solace in knowing that you're doing your country a service. It's not a large victory, and there won't be a parade or statue in your honor, but you're saving lives. Better safe than sorry carries tremendous weight. That's all I got. Thank you for listening. Talk soon.